Well, get your popcorn ready again because the second half of the SEC schedule is about to kick off. This is the third Saturday in October podcast, your SEC tailgate podcast for the rest of us. Find us online at thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com. All those fun links are there on that page. But we just had a very dramatic week 6. Just the final moments right before halftime. This week is halftime. The second half kicks off now with tailgating. I am Tennessee Bradley. With me coming to us from vacation is Alabama Chris. AC, what's up?
Oh, man, I had to drown my sorrows from Alabama losing last week. So I picked up the kids and the wife, and we're all in Vegas right now for a little fall break vacation action, having a good time. Right behind here with this picture, for those of you watching on YouTube, I had it all ready. You can see the planes landing right behind me, but you can't really see it when it's trying to compete for it. So I wanted more of a dramatic look being in Vegas and all, but you just get to the corner of some weird, dusty hotel room, but having a good time nonetheless.
Yeah. So sometimes the internet doesn't always reach where you want it to reach. But we're going to be looking at some standings, where we thought we would be and where we are, but also looking forward to this week's games. So let's jump into week 7 of the third Saturday in October. Chris, current standings. Let's look at this. In the East, we got Georgia, number 1. Number 1 in the country, number 1 in the East, number 1 in the SEC.
Number 1 in our hearts.
For some of us. For some of us, they take a back seat to other teams. Not surprising there. Kentucky in second. And granted, this is all based on how many losses. So Georgia and Kentucky both coming in undefeated overall and in the SEC. Then in third, it's Tennessee, because we've only lost once in the SEC, and that was to Florida. And then we've got Florida because they've lost twice. Then we've got Missouri because they're 0-2. Vanderbilt's 0-2. South Carolina coming in last simply because they're 0-3. Obviously, this is not how it's going to end up, simply because some teams have played more of their SEC schedule than others. Also, some are playing a heavier first half, easier second half kind of thing. That's generally how Tennessee's been set up. It's changed this year. Heavier second half by far. Then in the West, Alabama's still on top in the West. Second is Ole Miss. We got a lot of one-loss teams in the SEC West. Then third is Auburn. Pretty awesome for Brian Harson's first season. Then we've got Mississippi State, Arkansas, even though they've been showing out, 2 consecutive losses has dropped them to 5th. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. 5th in the SEC West. Then Texas A&M, and finally LSU. So Chris is working without all his screens and notes. So what have I gotten wrong in the East? Well, I thought Florida would be second. Right now, that's Kentucky. And I did say I thought Kentucky would be better this year with that new offense. And they are proving to do just that. I thought Missouri was going to be a little bit better. I thought Tennessee was going to be a little bit worse. We'll see how Tennessee does against Ole Miss. We still got Alabama, Georgia on the schedule. We still got a lot of games to play. Kentucky, we got to see how Tennessee's going to do against Kentucky. But yeah, very surprised to see Kentucky second, Tennessee third in the East.
I was thinking too that, like, if you would have told me halfway through the season that Georgia would be first in the East, I would have felt like that's a no duh statement. But to like a tied 1 and 2, Georgia and Kentucky, as far as losses go, or wins loss column, that's amazing that Kentucky is knocking it out of the park like they are. It's pretty impressive. So Kentucky, again, at the beginning of the season, Kentucky was one of those that I think I probably put probably fifth or sixth finish in the SEC East. But to see that they are undefeated at this point, just amazing. So that is certainly surprising. And as much as I don't want Alabama to lose any more games, it is making for more of an interesting West over there. But the idea that A&M just beat Alabama, but have got two other losses, already being in sixth place, that is wild. And then the other idea that LSU is sitting at the bottom of the West is just what? When was LSU? Yeah, again, I didn't expect this to be another Joe Burrow type season this year for LSU, but I certainly felt that at this point it would have felt like that they were rebounding a little bit. But it seems like a very real thing that LSU is going to continue to struggle, and that Ed Orgeron is probably going to be looking for a job soon, at least from everything else that I'm seeing. But a lot of surprises halfway through the season. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, it's a blast. I love what we do because now I'm watching all the teams and seeing how all this stuff moves. Before, I only cared about one team. Now I care about 1 plus 13. In the West, it's very surprising that Texas A&M has dropped so far, but when you lose your starting quarterback early in the season, that happens. Arkansas overachieving. It's going to be a good game this week against Auburn. Ole Miss,
but yeah,
I guess they're just kind of taking advantage of a shakeup in the West, and we'll see how much they can take advantage of that the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's certainly fun though, especially the idea that there are no undefeated teams in the West. It just opens it up for so much fun and excitement there. But again, like to go from A&M to look like the bottom of the pack when they lost their quarterback and losing definite games to Arkansas, and I forget the other loss, and then to be just so dominant last week against Alabama, it was incredible to see. But we're only halfway done. We've got so much excitement left to go. There are certainly things that I didn't think would be playing out halfway through the season at this point, but it just makes for a more interesting SEC competition moving into the second half here.
Yeah. So let's move into the second half. We've got some games to pick. So first up at 11 a.m., we've got Auburn at Arkansas. Auburn looking, maybe overachieving as well on Brian Harson's first season. Arkansas is definitely overachieving from what we expected. This is the 11 o'clock game, I believe. Yeah, it is on CBS. CBS gets 2 games this week, one at 11, and that's this one. Arkansas 4.5 point favorite. I am going with Arkansas. I think they are in a more desperation mode than Auburn with back-to-back losses. Arkansas wants to get back on track. Sam Pittman last week, Sam Pittman against Ole Miss ties it up as time expired. As the clock went to 0, or I guess he didn't tie it up, but he scored a touchdown. An extra point ties it, a 2-point conversion wins it. And he's like, no, I want to win now, and goes for 2. I love seeing that. I know players love it because it's like, we want to win now.
Let's go do it. Yeah.
And he rolled the dice and lost, but only lost by 1 to Ole Miss. So I'm going with them in a bounce back game to cover against Auburn.
Yeah, in very similar fashion, I'm picking Arkansas for my pick, but it's interesting that just 2 weeks ago they were undefeated and looking to have a historic season. Sam Pittman already hearing calls for Coach of the Year, and then you go back-to-back losses, and then you start backpedaling and figuring out what you can do. So this feels like maybe the most important game for Arkansas, and to a degree Auburn, because if Auburn can pull off a win and just really prove that, then what are they? They will probably remain somewhere in the middle of the pack in the West, but still showing that they are under Harsin, really proving to be a team to be reckoned with, even in his first year. So it could be one of those trap games for Arkansas, because it really spells what looks like what the rest of the season is going to look like. So I am picking Arkansas. This is going to be an interesting game to watch.
Very much so. Then we go to Florida LSU, also at 11. This one over on ESPN. Florida, an 11.5-point favorite. I'm going with Florida. I think Florida is just too much for LSU to handle, really. And I think Florida can pull away late, just like they did against Tennessee. They score a late touchdown to cover the spread.
Yeah. I could see Florida really, really pushing them to the brink, especially with LSU being 3-3 at this point. Everybody talking about the hot seat that Coach O is under. It seems like one of those years with LSU, unfortunately, that they are almost already throwing in the towel. And then you look at all of the injuries that LSU has. I mean, to look at a list of their injuries, of people that are actually were starters but now out, and then people that haven't even played so far this year, that list is long. And so I think that with the turmoil that's going on in Baton Rouge, and then Florida really looking for a signature win, I feel like that they're going to at least get 11, if not more. So I'm picking Florida too.
And then, excuse me, also at 11, it's a triple header at 11. Texas A&M going to Missouri. A&M a 9.5-point favorite. I'm going with A&M. I think they're riding high. Jimbo's got to be excited. He's the first former Saban assistant to ever beat little Nicky Saban. Congrats to Jimbo and Texas A&M. Even though I'm picking A&M, this could be a hangover game. And I think Missouri could keep it close. But I also know Missouri's defense is really bad. Mm-hmm. So if A&M, runs it 9 times and throws it once, I think they still win and even likely cover. Missouri's run defense is just that bad. So I'm going with A&M in this one.
Yeah, I am as well. And again, props to Coach Jimbo and the rest of the Aggies for an amazing win last weekend. Again, I was heartbroken, and I was telling Bradley that I had to watch some Great British Baking Show just to calm my nerves after the game because I was so dysregulated with the loss. But A&M played lights out. They did an amazing job. They deserved to win that game. Alabama did not show up, especially on defense. So with that, I think that you're right. I think this could be one of those typical and classic hangover games for A&M, especially when you have the quarterback. What is his name? Casada, or I forget exactly. But their quarterback that was second string going in and now has been for the last 3 or 4 games starting. This could be one of those games where he left it all on the field last weekend. But A&M seems to be, playing with some momentum, and I think they're going to take it into this game too. So as much as this could be one of those hangover games, I doubt that it's going to be, especially when you're looking at that Missouri defense.
Yeah. And then we go into the SEC game of the week. Number 1, Georgia versus number 11, Kentucky.
Wow.
And Georgia is a 22.5-point favorite. Georgia's offense is pretty good. They can score a lot of points when they need to, but their defense is just that great. Kentucky's offense, we've seen it struggle at times, but is also not just a running game like they've had in the past. But as we'll say, the rest of the season, no team has faced a defense like Georgia's, maybe ever, some people are saying. So Georgia, 22.5-point favorite. I'm still going with Georgia.
Wow.
Because I still think their defense is that good. Their defense, I mean, think about it. Their defense scores once. That's a 14-point swing. It could be something like that, where where Georgia's defense just completely shuts down Kentucky's offense. I mean, we've seen it before this season. Some people are even saying Alabama's defense is not as good as it was simply because Kirby's at Georgia and Kirby's getting the defensive players to go to Georgia. Maybe there is a case for that. Because those elite Alabama defenses from just a couple of years ago, we're seeing that kind of on steroids over at Georgia. The lack of scoring against this team is just incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Georgia.
Yep. I really couldn't tell you in my mind a defense that I've seen that is as dominating and smothering as this Georgia defense since Kirby was at Alabama a handful of years ago. So he's got the magic touch when it comes to defenses, and he has taken the Bulldogs into an area where they really are standing out among the rest of the teams. And so for Georgia to finally be number one, which they, you can't really take it away from the other number one guy until they lose or they prove that they are, not playing up to the potential of number one. So the fact that for Georgia to be there now, I think is a more accurate representation of where college football is really. Georgia is the number one team in the country. I was really happy when Alabama was in that argument. And I guess to a degree in some areas of play, they still could have that argument. But the defense, there were too many holes in there to not be really taken advantage of. And the Aggies showed that was the case. But going back to Georgia, they are so good. They are so dominant. And Kentucky, again, being 6-0, two 6-0 teams going at each other. And again, I believe this is the first time that Kentucky has been undefeated or 6-0 since I think I read somewhere earlier, like about 1950 or something like that. So really good game, I think. And I'm actually going to pick Kentucky with this, not to win, but I think that they make it a little more interesting game. And it would be fun to see it to be maybe one of those old school, low scoring games like you're used to. But Georgia they have their pick of quarterbacks depending on the scheme that they want to run. If they wanted to do that, their offense looks great, but their defense is just too good to really let somebody in front of them at this point. So until they prove otherwise, Georgia is going to dominate, but I'd like to see an interesting game. So I'm picking Kentucky because I don't think that Georgia is going to cover.
Well, if Waffle House is looking for a name, image, likeness deal and they haven't done it already, smothered and covered, they just need to provide hash browns to the Georgia defense because that's how they play week in, week out. It's really a lot of people say it's not fun to watch defensive football. I disagree. I love those defensive slugfests, the 9-6 finals. There was like a 9-3 game, Tennessee at Auburn. This would have been about 11 years ago. That was not fun to watch because both teams were just playing terribly. But I love some good defense. Then,
me too.
At 3:00 over on the SEC network, we've got Vanderbilt at South Carolina. South Carolina, an 18-point favorite. This, I believe, is going to be a fight for the bottom of the SEC East, and really the entire SEC. I'm picking South Carolina. I just think Vandy is that bad.
Well, with it being kind of the race to the bottom with these two teams, as it seems like it is often when we get to this point in the season, looking at the potential, the hope for the Gamecocks to have a good season and then to really see how it starts to play out. I don't know that this is where they will stay over the next couple of years. I'm excited to see what Beamer can do with South Carolina, but I think that right now, again, that race to the bottom is kind of where it's at. So I'm actually picking Vanderbilt just to make it interesting, though. This is my fun pick of the week because I would love to see that they could show up and actually have a little bit of a threat to the other team that they're playing. I don't think that Vanderbilt's going to win, but with that kind of spread, I'm going to say that it's going to be a little bit closer, much like the Kentucky game we were just talking about.
Yeah. It'd be great to see Vandy come out with a little bit of fight. Then at 6:00 on ESPN, we've got your Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the Mississippi State Air Raid Pirates. Alabama, a 17-point favorite in what hopefully will be a good rebound game.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a rebound game that I'm going to pay attention a lot to see what's going on. But with those air raid Pirates, if Mike Leach can have a signature Mike Leach game and bring back that air raid to some sort of successful degree against Alabama, knowing that where the Alabama defense is the most vulnerable is in that secondary, it could get interesting. My only thought is that I'm hoping that Alabama is trying to rebound from last week, plays lights out, and really shows what they're made of to try to, because again, every game now, because there's a one in the loss column, they've got to make a statement in order to try to get back to the playoffs now, because there's some really good teams across the country that are starting to make a case for why they should be in that top four. So now Alabama's got to play with a little bit more grit and heart than they're used to. So I really hope that Alabama takes that rebound game and shines with it. But this looks like one of those typical classic Mike Leach games that if he can put together that air raid, it could spell trouble for Alabama. So let's go Alabama. I'm picking Alabama, but it could get interesting if Mike Leach is classic Mike Leach.
Right. Well, I think Alabama, especially their defense, is going to be PISS ed. They're going to be mad. They should be, and they should use this as motivation to get back on track. I too am going with Alabama.
Cool.
That is also our virtual tailgate game of the week. So at 6:00 Central, 7:00 Eastern, tune in to our virtual tailgate. If you're a part of our email list, you get our pick'em every Thursday, sometimes Friday morning. You also get the link to our virtual tailgate. So if you don't get that, go to Third Saturday in October and sign up for that. Finally, the nightcap at 6:30 over on SEC Network. We have the Lane Train and Ole Miss going to Knoxville. Lane taking on his former team where he was there for 10 months, where he and his Lane Train team, the Ole Miss Lane Train, they are favored by 2.5. This should be a really good game.
Yeah.
It's starting to get electric in Knoxville after seeing this Josh Heupel offense. They're clicking. The third quarter last week, what did not look great. And what I've heard is when a high octane offense tries to take their foot off the gas just a little bit, this happens. I don't think anybody will be able to take their foot off the gas this week. Neyland will be checkered. We've done this before.
Yeah.
It will be electric. It will be at night. There's just an excitement. In Knoxville, Neyland Stadium is one of the toughest places to play when the crowd is electric. This has been said by Alabama players, by Florida never has anything good to say about Tennessee. By Georgia players, a lot of rivals have said Neyland is a hard place to play when they are ready to go, and they will be ready to go. What I'm hoping for is a one-score game at halftime at worst for Tennessee. We'll see how their defense stacks up against Ole Miss. Tennessee's defense overperforming. This is basically you're picking the winner in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At 2.5. I'm going with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Don't let me down. Don't let me down, Vols. Checker Neyland will be back. The place will be rocking. Let's defeat Lane Kiffin. All you people who hate how he left, hate that he left. This is revenge. Let's get it. And then don't storm the field because we don't want to pay any fines like A&M did. Our athletic department's already in bad enough shape as it is. So I'm going with Tennessee. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, this is going to be fun. This is an exciting game to watch. I'm a little disappointed that it's an SEC network game because I feel like that this has got all the potential of being right on ESPN. You got Ole Miss, that's a top 15 team. You got a Tennessee team that's looking better than everybody anticipated at this point in the season. I think this would be a fun game to watch on more of a national broadcast. But hey, we'll take it. My only issue, I wanted to pick Tennessee, but my only issue was that line was so close. And Ole Miss, I feel like that to a degree that Ole Miss has earned their placement within the top 15 at this point. And I think that they have a lot to prove as well. And I think that Lane Kiffin may play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he's going back into this old place where he used to coach. And so it's going to be difficult, especially with Tennessee being checkered like that. I am going to pick Ole Miss for this, but I think this is going to be a fun game. And hey, if you're going to the game, if you're going to be part of that checker, this is prime time for Tennessee to refresh all of the pictures of Neyland Stadium with a new, fresh, checkered look. So if you're going to the game, put your game face on because there are going to be a lot of aerial pictures taking photos that you'll then be able to point yourself out when it's like one of those big, huge pictures of Neyland Stadium in the future you can buy from the mall or something.
Yeah. Tag yourself. As they like to say. Yeah. And yeah, it's going to be electric. Hopefully next year we'll be able to get up to an electric game. But hey, you know what? This weekend is the third Saturday in October. We've made our picks. You can get yours in. Get yours in over on thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com. If you win the week, you get one of these awesome stickers. They just came in. So if you've won earlier this season, you should have just gotten your stickers yesterday or today. If not, they are in the mail. I promise. I've mailed them all out this week to our winners. So you'll get those stickers. But you can join anytime. We got weekly prizes, weekly stickers. So join at thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com. Our picks are in, which means it's time for pregame.
Pregame, tailgate, man cave, living room, pregame, burgers, ribs, chicken wings, chip and dip, pregame, scotch and a lot of IPA, Coca-Cola, pregame, slaying dogs, EA, cornhole, pregame. How you gonna watch?
So Chris, I know you're out in Vegas.
Yeah.
You will not be in Vegas on Saturday night though.
No, I will not be.
So what are you doing this weekend?
This weekend, okay, so the whole family, we're kind of doing a West Coast kind of fall break. So right now we're in Vegas, which isn't technically West Coast, but far enough away from Nashville where we reside to consider it as a West Coast trip. So we're here in Vegas now, but on Saturday night, me and the kids and the wife, we're going to go see my favorite band of all time, the Eagles.
Yes.
They're performing at the Forum, which right now you can go to your favorite music listening device of choice and pick up live at the Forum from the Eagles, which is a whole album that was recorded there at the Forum. And then also they have done other live recordings at the Forum that have come out in other places, but just a classic venue for the Eagles to be in their hometown of Los Angeles. And I'm excited to see them. So we're going to be at a concert that night, but you better believe it. Between Witchy Woman and Peaceful Easy Feeling, I'm looking down at my phone, checking these scores, especially because Alabama and Tennessee are taking those night games. So I won't be in the pocket like I usually am, but I'm still going to be thinking about it, even if I'm singing along to Hotel California.
Well, I know we bonded early on over the Eagles. When I turned 16, I got three CDs, 3 albums from my dad of music he grew up on. And it was the Eagles live, Eric Clapton's Timepieces, and Best of the Doobie Brothers. I've seen Clapton. Ooh. I saw the Eagles, like you will, with Deacon Fry, Glenn's son, and Vince Gill. And Don Henley said, Deacon's doing great. Before his dad passed away, he was playing vineyards and stuff, small venues with his dad for about 150 people. And then his first show with the Eagles was at Dodger Stadium for, I think, 50,000, 100,000. I don't know what Dodger Stadium holds, but a lot of people. Wow. And that was really only a couple months before I saw them. And I thought, you know what? No wonder Deacon looks a little nervous. He sounded great, played great. And then you've got Vince Gill up there who's just having a ball. So I'm very excited that you get to go see the Eagles with your family. Yeah, it just happens to fall on a Saturday in the fall, the third Saturday in October, even more so. But that's going to be a blast. I
absolutely
have some things going on Saturday, but you better believe I'm going to have my rear end on the couch at 6:00 for the virtual tailgate.
Nice.
Just hanging out for about 30 minutes. And then you will see me sweating it out on the virtual tailgate as Tennessee takes on Ole Miss. It will be a blast. I hope it's a great game. I just hope that it's not a blowout in Ole Miss's favor. A blowout win by Tennessee, fine. A close Tennessee win, great. A close Tennessee loss, fine. I hate when you've got two evenly matched teams and my team is on the wrong end of a blowout. It's just never fun. So it should be a fun weekend. Looking forward to so many of these games. Looking forward to Auburn, Arkansas. That should be a lot of fun. We'll see what Florida does against LSU. We'll see how A&M bounces back. We'll see who the contenders are in the SEC and the pretenders when Kentucky takes on Georgia. Vanderbilt, South Carolina. Maybe there'll be something interesting there. Alabama at Mississippi State, seeing how the Crimson Tide bounce back. And then Ole Miss at Tennessee. Look, there's always going to be popcorn when Lane Kiffin's around. So great weekend. Go make your picks. Be a part of the virtual tailgate and check us out online at thirdsaturday-in-October.com. I'm Tennessee Bradley, and I want to wish all of you a very merry Roll Vols.
And Alabama Chris being a little away from Alabama, being a little away from Tennessee, all the way over in Nevada, saying, Roll Vols, baby.